Let's talk beats and let's talk tunes. Let's talk laughter. Let's talk smiles. We're here to listen, so talk for a while. It's you and me on TFM. Let's talk.
Presenting CFM, the most happening music, the most important news, and most importantly, your views. The voice of Times of Oman, a Times of Oman radio station. CFM. Let's talk.
Live on TFM and the TFM
Take a
Facebook
break from the
page.
noise and enjoy the sounds of your favorite songs.
This is back-to-back music on TFM. Let's talk later.
Hello and welcome to the Midday Update. This is the latest update from our newsroom. The Ministry of Health today announced the registration of 9 new coronavirus deaths in Oman. The death toll has now touched 233 in Oman due to the virus so far, the officials at the Ministry of Health informed. They also extended their deepest condolences to the family of the deceased. Officials at the Ministry of Health also announced the registration of 1,210 new coronavirus cases in the country today. 939 of the new cases are Omani nationals and 271 for non-Omanis, bringing the total number of COVID-19 cases registered in the Sultanate to 50,207. According to the Ministry of Health, this number also includes the recovery of 32,500 patients and 233 deaths. The ministry urged everyone to adhere to social distancing instructions issued by the Supreme Committee and the Ministry of Health, as well as staying at home and not going out unless necessary. Well, it's time for a quick commercial break, but stay tuned as we'll be back with more updates your way. Welcome back. Figures released by the Ministry of Health on Tuesday, July 7th, show that Omanis constituted 71% of all new COVID-19 cases reported in the country in the past week. A total of 8,927 new cases of COVID-19 had been reported during the last 7 days until Tuesday, July 7th, of which 6,369, which is about 71.3%, were of Omanis, and the remaining 2,558 were expatriates. The highest number of tests among Omanis that came back positive for the disease was on July 6th, when 1,057 more citizens were found to have the disease. On that day, the number of expats who tested positive was less than half at just 500. The day on which the rate of infection among expats was the highest was July 3rd, with the number of Omanis who tested positive for COVID-19 on that day standing at 839. Similarly, the lowest number of Omanis who tested positive for the disease was on July 7th, when 799 more cases were discovered among citizens. On that day, 273 non-Omanis were also found to be COVID positive. 63% of all patients suffering from COVID-19 in Oman have recovered from the disease, according to the updates from the Ministry of Health yesterday. Oman's Supreme Committee, tasked to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic, has said it will take a tough stance towards those who violate the rules put in place to spread the disease. They will publish the names and images of all those who are found to be breaking the rules and will release their pictures in local media publications. The Supreme Committee will also provide assistance to those companies that have felt the brunt of the pandemic. Reiterating the importance of following the rules, the committee stressed the severity of this disease, the absence of a vaccine to prevent it and no medication to treat it yet, and the ability of the coronavirus to cause many serious health complications that have led to death of patients of all age groups. The committee also wished to draw the attention of all to the fact that the spread of the disease has led to severe pressure on the services provided by the medical sector, especially the intensive care rooms, which may affect the services given to patients with this or other diseases. The Muscat municipality has set guidelines for disinfection and sterilization of commercial centers. A statement issued online by the Muscat municipality said, guidelines for disinfection and sterilization at commercial center are as follows. Sanitizers to be provided at the entrance and near shopping carts. Provide staff with guidance to clean and sanitize surfaces, handrails, escalators, and call buttons regularly. Provide antiseptics and disinfectants in toilets continuously. Instruct employees to wash their hands with soap and water. Disinfect and sterilize uniforms or work clothes regularly. Clean and well-lit play areas must be provided. Change, wash, and disinfect towels after multiple use regularly. The Ministry of Regional Municipalities and Water Resources has signed a financing agreement with Oman LNG Company. A statement issued online by the municipality said that His Excellency the Minister of Regional Municipalities and Water Resources signed a financing agreement with the Development Institution of the Oman LNG Company. The agreement included financing the project of supplying and installing games for children with disabilities in public parks located within the scope of the ministry's supervision in a number of governorates of the Sultanate, the statement said. In addition to that, more than 20 seats will be allocated for students with disabilities in the university study programs for the academic year 2020 to 2021 at the Sultan Qaboos University. A statement issued online by the Oman News Agency said, Sultan Qaboos University allocates 26 seats for students with disabilities and university study programs for the academic year 2020 to 2021. Students attending CBSE in Oman and around the world will have a reduced academic syllabus for the year 2020-2021 as a result of the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The decision, according to the Central Board for Secondary Education, which is the CBSE, will affect students between classes 9th and 12th. The board has decided to revise the syllabi for classes 9 to 12 for the academic session 2020 to 2021, said Dr. Joseph Emmanuel, Director Academics at CBSE. He also said that the reduced syllabus will not be part of the topics for internal assessment and year-end board examination. However, the syllabus will remain unchanged for students from grades 1 to 8. The citizens and residents can now renew their driving license card electronically starting from Sunday, July 12th. A statement issued online by the Royal Oman Police said, the Royal Oman Police announces that citizens and residents can renew the terminated driving license card electronically through the police website and the police application via smartphones from Sunday, July 12, 2020. With the necessity of activating the electronic certification service, that is the PKI, and storing the result of an electronic eye examination and then receiving it from the nearest police service center in the various governorates, the statement by the Royal Oman Police said. It's again time for a quick commercial break, but stay tuned as we'll be having a conversation about bankruptcy during the COVID-19 pandemic. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Midday Minute. As I mentioned earlier that in today's show we'll be talking about bankruptcy during COVID-19 pandemic, and in this regard we have Mr. Yasin Chowdhury, head of the corporate advisory at Faqih & Co, joining us to talk about the new law, the procedure and how to go about it while you're having or facing bankruptcy. Thank you so much, Mr. Yasin Chowdhury, for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
So, Mr. Yasin, could you tell us about what the law of bankruptcy in Oman talks about?
The law of bankruptcy in Oman, as you are aware, there is a new law from this month, which is already in effect. And before we had a law of bankruptcy under the different regime. But the new law has actually introduced several other mechanisms in addition to the bankruptcy, and which we will be discussing surely later part of the discussion. So generally, a trader or a businessman or a company which is under financial stress and which is failing to comply with the financial obligations in the market towards its customers, that sort of trader or company actually can apply for different mechanisms, including bankruptcy, under the new law of Oman.
Mr. Yasin, you just mentioned that there has been changes to the bankruptcy law. Could you please highlight those changes and how it differs from the previous law that was about bankruptcy in Oman?
Previously in Oman, there were liquidation and the bankruptcy, two different regimes to help the companies and the traders who are in financial distress. But under the new law, we see there are other mechanisms, for example, the restructuring and judicial composition or preventive composition, and also the bankruptcy. So which are in line with the modern jurisdictions and the modern countries' practices in order to deal with the financial stress by the companies. So we can say the bankruptcy law of Oman, the new law, is quite modern and in line with other practices in other jurisdictions.
Right. So, Mr. Yasin, could you please tell us under what conditions is one entitled or is one, endorsed to declare bankruptcy in terms of both individuals and companies?
The primary criteria which actually allows a trader, I would say, this is the word used in the law to define which sort of entities actually entitled to apply for bankruptcy or get the benefit under this new regime of law. Any trader who is under the financial stress and cannot comply with the financial obligation in terms of paying off its debt for the customers can apply for different mechanisms, as I said, restructuring, preventive composition, or judicial composition, including bankruptcy. So yes, any trader which is in the financial stress and cannot pay off its debt, the primary criteria is failure to pay the debts, are actually entitled to apply for bankruptcy.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Yasin. And just to declare bankruptcy, I'm sure there is going to be a procedure that one needs to follow, and I'm sure there are going to be rules and regulations. Could you please highlight the procedure?
Yes, any trader who wish to apply for bankruptcy, if it's facing the financial problem and cannot pay off its debt in the market, the outstanding amount, then it can actually apply and file a petition to the court for the declaration of bankruptcy. After the petition is filed, the court will summarily assess the whole situation of the company. And if the court finds the prima facie evidence, which, on the face of the petition, if the court thinks, yes, there is a ground and good reason to declare the company bankrupt, then the court will appoint a liquidator and a judge as a receiver who will oversee these total proceedings of the bankruptcy. So once the liquidator is appointed, then the liquidator will publish the decision of the court. The decision will be published in the gazetted paper or notification, and the creditors will be asked to submit their dues outstanding amount from this bankrupt company. And after the claims are received, the liquidator will prepare a report, what are the amounts that are available under the assets of the company, what are the assets are there, what are the dues of the company, and the total picture of the financial condition of the company will be reflected in the report, and this report will be also supplied to the different creditors of the company. At this stage, the creditor can actually object to the report saying otherwise, and the court will make the decision, and accordingly the process will be finished with the Ministry of Commerce taking off the name from the register of commerce, this company's name. So the name of the company will be struck off, and also there are other consequences following the bankruptcy declaration of a company or a trader, which, yes, we'll be discussing in the later part.
Mr. Yasin, you are an expert in this field and you have been in this business for a really long time. During your experience and during your time, have you actually stumbled upon people who actually, fake bankruptcy just to get away with loans and to get away with certain payments?
Yes, there are instances where we found that a businessman or a trader or a company try to evade their obligations to pay the outstanding amount just in the pretext of bankruptcy. And this topic actually very strictly handled in the new regime of the bankruptcy law in Oman. And there are very strict punishments if any director or board of directors of the company found to be acting in bad faith when they apply for the bankruptcy procedures under this new law. There are punishment for them, even fine 500 from 200 to 500 Omani riyals, and also there is an imprisonment term that they have to go if the court is satisfied that this company which applied for the bankruptcy was acting in a bad faith.
Okay, so there is actually imprisonment and fine, like a penalty if you are providing any fake documents or you are actually making up your bankruptcy.
Yeah, if someone hides any outstanding amount from the balance sheet, if any company is not including all its creditors on the balance sheet, and also if any company is faking the very process of bankruptcy just to avoid its obligation to pay the outstanding amount in the market. So these are categorically mentioned in the new law, where these sort of offenses are made punishable both under the law of bankruptcy and also under the penal code.
Right. Mr. Yasin, you know that we are actually in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, and not just Oman, but the whole world is suffering from it right now. So do you think that COVID-19 has actually led an increase in the number of bankruptcies in the country?
Well, it's very obvious that the businesses will be under huge financial stress during this pandemic. And we already have the report that a lot of companies are already out of business, which are in the process. And this will definitely lead to the increased number of bankruptcy applications, both in the court and outside for other mechanisms, as I said, this restructuring composition mechanisms under the ministries and other authorities. So there is a high chance that the number will increase, but again, this new law will be helpful. And I would say this new law, it came into effect in a very high time to give bit room for the business and the investors so that they can think of out of the box and they can save the business without going for bankruptcy, as I said, like composition, and they can come to a restructuring plan with the creditors, maybe a 5-year plan they can get. And if the creditors and other stakeholders agree with the plan, then yes, the business can be saved and they can take the full advantage of this new regime.
Thank you so much, Mr. Yasin. It's a time for a short commercial break, but stay tuned as we are still in conversation with Mr. Yasin Chowdhury, who is going to tell us more about bankruptcy during COVID-19. Chowdhury, Head of the Corporate Advisory at Faqih & Co. Mr. Yasin, before going on a break, we were talking about that how coronavirus has, if it has led to an increase in the number of bankruptcies in Oman, and you spoke about how the business is already down. And in terms of bankruptcies, have you come upon any cases, like any increase in the number of cases that has led to bankruptcy due to coronavirus lately?
Yes, we already received a lot of applications from the different company owners and businesses where they're exploring the different opportunities available to deal with the financial stress they are facing during the pandemic. So it's not straightforward for the bankruptcy application, I would say. There are other options available if the board of directors and the company owners think that the company will turn back and will have a good prospect in future. So yes, there are rooms under the new law that can come to a restructuring plan with the creditors, which will be delayed their obligations for a certain period of time, and they can take the advantage of that. So yes, we are receiving the queries from the businesses and the company owners how to deal with the present situation and what's the way forward, including queries for the bankruptcy at the end of the tunnel.
Mr. Yasin, before earlier during the show, you actually mentioned about the consequences of bankruptcies. So can you just actually highlight what are the consequences on employees, specifically expats, during the proceedings of the bankruptcy?
When an application for bankruptcy is filed in the court, and when the court summarily decides on the bankruptcy application and appoint the liquidator, actually from that point of time, the company assets and everything will become frozen, and will be handled by the liquidator himself. So up until that point, the employees and other outstanding debts will be sealed on, in a sense that one of the consequences of the bankruptcy proceedings is that the clock will stop ticking. It means that the liabilities of the bankrupt companies under the bankruptcy proceedings will be stopped, and no more accrual of the interest will happen on the outstanding amount. And also, to a certain extent, other legal actions against the company under the bankruptcy proceedings also will stop. Specifically for the employees, if we talk about, one of the consequences of the bankruptcy proceedings is a valid reason for the employer or the company under bankruptcy is to terminate the contract of employees. Yes, so under the law of Oman, the employment law of Oman, it says that bankruptcy of a company will be a very good reason for termination of employees, especially the expats. So yes, the employees of a company under bankruptcy will expect that they are terminated and their contract are no longer stand with the company, and yes, they will get their the benefits and their other entitlements from the company accordingly.
So during the period of proceedings of when one declares bankruptcy, who gets paid first, and where employee stands during the proceedings? When the liquidator prepares the report, the final report, that's the cornerstone of the total picture of the company. And in terms of the people who gets the payment, who will get paid first, or the line of the creditors and other people who actually the company owes the money to pay. There are 4 people, as according to the law. The first will be the employees. Good news for the employees, especially for the expat people, the expert employees. So the employees will be ranking in the first, and then it will be the government dues, taxes, and other government dues will also come in the second place. And the secured lender, we say, like the banks and other financial institutions which give loan to the company, they will rank in third place. And following that, there will be unsecured lenders, we say. For example, if there is any creditor in the market who supplied any product or any goods to the company under bankruptcy proceedings, who do not have any security in place for their business, so they will be ranked at the very last of the ladder. So these are the 4 groups of people who are in line
to get the payment from the company under bankruptcy.
Thank you, Mr. Yasin. So during the procedure of bankruptcy, what are the duties and liabilities of the company directors and, the senior management?
Under the new law, if we discuss, under the new law, it's very strict in terms of the behavior of the board of directors in good faith. As we discussed before, if the court finds out the application of bankruptcy when it's made by the company was not acting in good faith, or if they were trying to take resort to avoid their liability to pay off their debts, then they will be criminally liable. So in terms of liability of the board of directors under the new regime is very strict. And if there is no assets of the company left, or the assets which are company less than 20% of the total outstanding amount in the market, as it appears on the balance sheet during the process of the bankruptcy proceedings. So the court may ask the board of directors and the companies to severally or jointly pay off the debts of the company. If it proves that the company and the board of directors took resort to fraudulent activities. Even if there is no evidence of fraud on behalf of the board of directors, still court can ask the members and the partners of the board of directors to compensate the debt of the company to the extent of their shares in the company. So this is in terms of liability of the board of directors to pay off the debts of the company under bankruptcy.
Thank you, Mr. Yasin. I'm sure a lot of viewers out there at this point of time really want to know that during the COVID-19 pandemic, how can you survive the financial stress?
First of all, we need to do the due diligence. This is very important for a company, especially under this present special situation. The due diligence will be the key. Due diligence in terms of the financial situation of the company, in terms of the recovery, if anything there in the market from the customers, and also to come to a payment plan, if possible, from a rigid position to a very soft place, so that at least they can encourage the creditors or the debtors to come to a solution, mutual solution, whereby both the parties will be on win-win situation, and also will give room to breathe for both the parties, and that will encourage the payment in the market as well. And also, if it's possible, if there is a check, the PDCs are actually the good key. They're very fundamental in terms of recovery in the market. So if the company are having a check as a security, they can use it to make the recovery faster, and also to be very vigilant in the market, to get in touch with the clients concerned, how they are doing. And also we say that actually gossiping also helps to a great extent, that what's going on inside the company, to be in contact. So this sort of informal way of getting the information proved helpful in terms of getting the recovery and taking the early action if required to actually recover the money from the customers. And also, if possible, company also need to see about the financial plan, if they can take the financial help from the different institutions, including the bank. Now the government also offering the financial help from the banks on very low loan rate or low margin. So that will be also helpful for the government, for the businesses and the traders to take the matter forward and to survive this difficult time of pandemic.
Mr. Yasin, my last question to you, we are talking about the consequences, the punishments, the financial stress. There should be a bright side to it too. Are there any benefits for the companies under the financial stress?
Yes, benefits in terms of the whole mechanism. There are now 4 mechanisms under the bankruptcy law. One is restructuring, The second is judicial composition. Third is preventive composition. And fourth is the bankruptcy mechanism. The first three will definitely help the foreign investors and the local businesses in Oman to breathe, at least to get some more time to pay off their debts without having very negative impacts on their business in future. This is some of the benefits under the new regime. And even if a company declared bankrupt, it also helps, though the civil rights of the company partners are suspended for a 3 years of time, but after 3 years, everything actually cleared off. It's a clean slate, and the people can start business anew. And also, this company can come back to business after they are rehabilitated under the law of bankruptcy, the new law, and also under some provisions of the Penal Code of Oman. So, yes, the company under the new law, there are a lot of benefits and the good news for the companies under financial stress to take the benefit of. And in case they have to file for bankruptcy proceedings, so they will be back in business after rehabilitation period, as I mentioned, the 3 years time. So it's completely win-win situation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Yasin, once again for joining us. It was indeed a very informative session with you today.
Thank you very much. I also enjoyed being here.
For all the viewers, thank you for tuning in to the live transmission of TTV. We'll be back again tomorrow the same time with more news your way. So stay tuned and keep watching TTV.